we have noticed on the road is that so many people do it because they need like this life reset.
Are you an RV person? Or are you just RV life curious, wondering how people live in a tiny space with their family 24/7? Either way, this is a podcast for you. My name is Kate White, and I travel full-time with my family and 2 kids and the dog in an RV. Every week, I sit down with a fellow RV woman to learn why she chose RV life and how she has changed on the road. Pull a chair up to the fire and let's chat.
Hello, my friends and fellow RV queens. This is Kate White, your host, coming at you from a library meeting room in northern Michigan because we had family over and I couldn't record in the RV today. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please ignore my background. And if you're listening, please ignore the fact that I'm kind of talking quietly. Okay, enough about me. Guys, listen, this is the first recording of season 2 of the podcast, which I'm really excited about. This season, we're going to be talking about different perspectives on RV life. And this first guest, you're going to love. Her name is Brittnee Proha. Her Instagram handle, she's all over the place at Our Life We Build. Follow her on Facebook at Brittnee Proha for the most hilarious gifs and memes, by the way. Okay. She's been on the road for 6 years, living with 5 kids and her husband and a dog, and they actually just came off the road. I thought this would be an interesting perspective to share with you because she has a ton of experience traveling with her family and also has been through all the ups and downs and glory moments and challenges and stuff of RV life. And they've decided to come off the road and give the perspective of RV life versus, here's how we're going to live now that this phase of our life is over. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think you will too. Let's get into it. Hello, Brittnee, and welcome to the RV Queens podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good. Welcome from the comfort of your car over there.
Comfort of my car. It's actually nice and chilly in here, so I'm not complaining.
Oh, good. Yeah, because you're in Florida right now, right?
Florida in the summer, and it looks like it's not hot outside, but it definitely is 90 degrees outside. So,
oh my gosh. Well, your hair is nice and straight and not frizzy. So,
thank you. I've been jumping in the pool with the kids, and so I've actually been doing it after I get out of it.
Nice.
Usually it's on top of my head in a bun.
Yeah, totally. As it should be. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I don't want to make you too jealous, but I'm up here in Michigan right now, in the very top of Michigan, and it's like a perfect 70 degrees. So,
oh, I am jealous.
Okay, I did want to make you like a little bit jealous, but anyways.
I am.
So, you are my season 2 opener, and this season, congratulations on being chosen as the opener. Just kidding. But I say all that to say, like, this season, I want to talk about different perspectives on the RV life. And you have a really unique perspective because you are actually about to come off the road from RV life after, is it 6 years you've been on the road?
Yep, 6 years. Yep.
So I have a lot of questions about how you came to make that decision, that it was time to stop living on the road. But before we do, I would love to hear like rewind time back before you guys took you and your husband and your 5 kids and lived in an RV. Like, what was Brittnee's life back then? Like, paint the picture of what was going on.
So that was 6 years ago, and we lived on 10 acres in right above Spokane, Washington. And we had actually just finished building what we thought was like our dream home. But in reality, it really wasn't. It was, my husband did not want to move to Spokane, but he did it because I wanted to move there. And I had just had Molly, our 5th baby. And it was like this whole nightmare of trying to get permits, trying to get this house built. It didn't end up appraising for what it needed to appraise for. And so that was like a whole ordeal, like financially. And it just seemed like we weren't supposed to be there. And so I had actually wanted to full-time like 10 years ago, like way prior to this. I have always been super adventurous. Like, honestly, it probably wouldn't shock anyone if I, like back then with all my little ones, if I had packed each one of them their own backpack and we just started traveling abroad with absolutely nothing. Like, that wouldn't have been unusual with 5 kids for me, just because I love to explore. I don't love to fly though. And so that was what RVing kind of came in. We could go to so many different places and not have to fly there with the kids and have like that aspect of it. And we could bring our home. And so actually one of my friends had full-timed with her. I want to say they had 5 kids at that point. They're at like 8 now. So I think it was like 5 or 6 at that point. And they had full-time, and she'd actually renovated her RV. And it was so cute. And I was like, I could live in a tiny RV like that with my kids and go travel and all that stuff. So that's kind of what inspired me originally. And my husband was just not on board. He was like, you're nuts. Like, there's so many of us. We're not moving into a tiny little trailer and towing it around the country. Like, you're insane. And so anyways, we built this house. We were in it for not even 2 years. I want to say we were not even in it 2 years. And we had built it from like raw land. Like, we did the perk holes. We dug the well. We brought electricity out. And so we were in it for not even 2 years, and he was miserable, and he was just like, you know what? Let's just sell it all. And I was like, done. And I literally had it listed the next week. I'm not even kidding. I was so ready.
Wow.
And thankfully at that point, like, I had my own business that was actually, providing for us. So he had quit his corporate job a year earlier. So he was just kind of hanging out on the farm. And so it wasn't really like we needed to be there. And so we hired a horrible real estate agent, and we actually ended up taking us 6 months to sell it. After we had the contract with him go up, we ended up signing with another lady who sold it in 3 days, which was a whole thing. But,
wow.
So we sold it, and we actually packed. So that house was 3 stories. It was just over 4,000 square feet, and it was massive. And we sold basically everything. Like, we either took it to Goodwill or we sold it. We kept some stuff in a pod. Like, I did a lot of antiquing, and so I kept a lot of that stuff that was like sentimental to me, which is still in Washington. Someday we'll get it. I don't know when. But we packed it all, and then we actually packed our kids. We had an NV, a big 12-passenger van, packed all the kids in it, packed all of our stuff in it, and we drove away from that house completely homeless. Like, we didn't end up actually going into a trailer until 2 months later. So we did Airbnbs, and we ended up buying our first travel trailer in Valencia, California, 2 months later. And so I think that, like, a lot of people that go into RVing, what we have noticed on the road is that so many people do it because they need like this life reset. Like, they're exhausted from running their kids all over the place. They're exhausted from their day-to-day job, and they just need to reset and just like cleanse all of the things, all the materialistic things, and just, restart. So that's kind of what it was for us. And then we ended up living in this travel trailer, which was tiny, for 2.5 years, and then moving into the toy hauler that we just sold.
A very intense genesis story of yes. RV life. I have so many questions for you. First of all, what was the business you were running? And then did you continue running that from your little travel trailer that was stuffed full of 5 kids?
Yes. So we had a network marketing business that I had for years prior. And so I ended up running that out of the trailer for basically 2.5 years. I let it go like 2 years ago. So yeah. So like, I guess a little bit over 2 years, but yeah, I ran it out of there. And then we ended up like getting into a lot of like content creation. And so that business kind of phased out, and then we kind of went into content creation, and it was cool because Brent was able to do a lot of that with me, where the business before it was it kind of ran on his own, thankfully, but I still had to do like a lot of calls and all that stuff, which was not fun in a trailer. I have seen so many coffee shops around this United States of America because I had to leave. I couldn't be there with the kids working and doing calls and stuff. But yeah, that was what we did at first.
Okay. So you are already used to, like working from home and running your own business. And then did you homeschool before you hit the road too?
Yeah. So my kids have never been to school. And so I was running this business and homeschooling them at the same time and on the road. So that was like an event in itself, homeschooling 5 kids. But thankfully, Brent was home at that point, so he could help and kind of like take that off of my plate. But yes, we were doing all the things in the RV.
Okay. I have to ask this question because you said towards the beginning that like years before you even moved into a travel trailer with your 5 kids, that you were ready to put them in little backpacks and just go travel with them. What is your secret to not being stressed out with 5 kids and travel? Because I only have 2 kids and I'm like, I feel like we're like just managing. So
I think when you have multiple kids, you let like a lot of things go that usually bother someone. Like you really have to learn how to like not be in control of every single thing. And we've actually done like a ton of reels and videos on this of how we have basically taught our kids from a young age to help take care of themselves. So like all of my kids, like even my 7-year-old, and she's done this for a while, can literally make themselves any meal. They can make themselves eggs. They can make themselves grilled cheese. Like they know how to use a knife the right way. They know how to use the stove correctly. Like we have taught them all those things. And I think you'd be surprised at like how much your kids actually can. And at first, like obviously we were there doing that whole process with them, but our kids are very like self-reliant. Like they can handle it. And then also we have older kids. Like I have a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old, both who are amazing with the kids and kind of help oversee and all do those things. So it's just like learning to like be like, all right, I don't need to control all these things. And like, let's teach you and see like what you can do and what you're comfortable with. And I think that a lot of people would be surprised at how much their kids can do. And it's not like necessarily that they can handle. It's not trying to take their innocence away from them, but it's like, all right, like what can you do? Like what can you help with? And like, how can you be a part of like kind of fitting into the family so this kind of runs in a efficient way?
Yeah, I like that. I need to meet more moms like you and learn from that. I remember when my oldest was, around, we were kind of shopping around for preschools and we went and visited a Montessori. And it was kind of, I remember tidbits of the same thing where you see these little toddlers, like 18 months and 2 years old, and they're like sitting at a table for lunch. They're not in a high chair. They're drinking out of a cup, not a sippy cup. They literally like have their food on plates. And when they're done, they know they pick up their plates and take it to the thing. And my kid was like 3 at the time and not doing that. And it was a huge light bulb moment for me. It's exactly what you're talking about. You're like, oh, I've never even like, I have the mental block that she can't do these things.
Right.
So of course she doesn't do these things. But if you take kind of like those things away and you're like, well, let's see what you can do, 2-year-old. Like,
kids are they're so smart and they love it. Like, especially like if you're able to like teach them and like be there and let them learn. They love the ability to like show you like, oh, I can do this. Like my 7-year-old, she cracks me up because she is just like, if y'all can do it, I can definitely do it. Like, no joke. So she she runs her brothers. It's hilarious. But yeah, like they can definitely, they're so smart. They can do a lot more than we give them credit to do.
That's right. They're little sponges. And
yes, 100%.
Awesome. Okay, so did you know anything about RVs before you packed up the family and moved into one?
Okay, so my parents had actually full-time RV'd probably like 4 years prior to, no, not quite. So like 3 years prior to us launching. They had actually full-time for 2 years. And that was another thing that like kind of sparked it for me, was because they actually were in, when we had bought the property that we eventually built our house on, It was snowing. We were under like 6 feet of snow. It was freezing. And they actually left and went to Southern California. And I was like, and I actually drove down and stayed 2 months with them with my kids because I didn't want to be up there. We were in an 1892 farmhouse that had an interior door as our front door. It was freezing. Like we had no heat. It was the fireplace that was in the middle. So during that winter, when they were doing it, I actually drove down with the kids and stayed with them for a while. And I was like, this is amazing. You get to pick where you want to be for the winter and the summer and the fall and the spring. And you don't have to be super, super hot or super, super cold. Like you get to choose where you want to be. So that was like really another thing that sold it for me. And one thing that I love about RVing is that you literally get to pick wherever you want to be. And sometimes that can seem daunting because there's definitely times where it was like, well, where do we want to go? But I loved that part of it. There was so much freedom in being able to go wherever we wanted to go. And I was just so sold on that part of it.
How did your friends and family react when you said you're packing up and moving into an RV? Like your parents, maybe since they were already familiar?
Yeah. It was kind of mixed. A lot of people were like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I wish I could do that. And then a lot of people were like, you're insane moving into a tiny place with your 5 kids. But
like what midlife crisis all
is wrong with you? Yeah.
Right.
And that's what it was. And it's true. Like, I don't know about your kids, but my kids really do love being with each other. Like they have always been that way. Even my 16-year-old, like we just moved into this 4-bedroom house and the girls are all sharing this massive room and people are like, wait, your 16-year-old is sharing with your 12 and your 7-year-old. But like, they really love being together. Like they're best friends, even with this age gap, and they love being together and they love playing together. And so it was never really like a thing where we're like, oh, we need all this space and all this privacy. I know that's like a huge comment that we got on a lot of our reels was like, your poor kids, they don't have any privacy. Even when we did have rooms, like we would do Airbnbs and all this stuff, they still were all in the same room. They want to be together. So it wasn't this for people to be like, you're insane. For us, it wasn't, because that's just not our family dynamic. Like our family dynamic really does have a closeness together. So it was kind of mixed. Some people were like, this is so awesome. And then other people were like, you're nuts. So yeah. I've heard that a lot.
Right. And also that concept, I just have to make a little rabbit trail on this topic of like how people should live with every kid should have their own bedroom and whatever. It's so Western of us. Like,
yes,
there's so many other cultures around the world where everyone's like sleeping in the same bed. You know,
literally.
It's like, dude, chill. Like every family has its own.
Exactly.
Relax.
I know. I completely agree. Like, yeah, exactly. I have a lot of words on that, but I won't go into
it. I know.
Yeah.
I feel like we could take a strong tangent, but we're going to reel ourselves in.
Definitely.
I mean, I got to return to the homeschooling topic because you have a lot of kids and you've been homeschooling for years and years.
Yeah.
How has your homeschooling approach changed over the years that you've been on the road? Like, where did it start and where are you guys at now with your approach?
Yeah. So at first we were trying to keep it like really traditional to like what like the school system does. So we were, trying to make the kids like do exactly what you would if you had been in a school. And that changed a lot when we were on the road because we were actually at the places that we were supposed to read in books. And so my kids were getting like hands-on learning where a lot of kids just would read about it. So we would go to like national parks and museums and all these things and learn. And that is one of the things that I am so grateful that we got to do because my kids soaked up so much more information than they would had they just read something. And they got to meet so many different people from different cultures and, elderly people who had lived through like the war and the Great Depression and all these things. And they got to hear firsthand about it, like in person and seeing like the actual places. So, we do the good and the beautiful, for like all the kids. My high school kid does like an online program, so she's kind of on her own, but the other kids are doing the good and the beautiful. And then we do take like, even now that we're in a house, like we already are planning now other trips that we can take that are historical and stuff so that the kids can see it. Like my 9-year-old boy loves that stuff. Like he loves going to museums and he loves soaking that stuff up. So our homeschool approach is much more hands-on now than it was when we first started. And we kind of like let go of that traditional public school system concept of like the kids have to be in school from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. Like, no, we do math and English and, reading, and then do usually the science and history stuff in person. And I feel like my kids have gotten way better of an education that way.
Was finding friends on the road ever a concern for you, especially like when your kids started getting older, or how did that work with you guys?
So the first year, actually, we did not have a lot of friends. Okay. So like this was like prior to a lot of people going on the road. Now, like so many families are doing it, but when we originally did it 6 years ago, it was very limited. There was a much smaller community, and obviously we're all spread out all across the United States. And so for the first year, it was really hard to find friends and stuff. But once we kind of like, and this question is asked so much from people, I remember like, how do you make friends? You have to put yourself out there when you're on the road. So like striking up a conversation when you see other kids out there and stuff like that. I think that's so important. So our kids have so many friends now that are on the road that we were able to travel with, which I think is so cool. Like for months, we've traveled with people and just lined up all of our stops and stuff. And our kids now have friends all over the United States, which I also think is really cool. And they all still talk to them. So at first it was really hard, but with Instagram, I mean, I met a ton of people through Instagram and them just reaching out and being like, hey, I'm actually in the same area as you, can we do a campfire or whatever? And then obviously like the Thousand Trails is a huge family community. That's what a lot of people do. And that's just like always kids.
Right. Yeah.
Always kids. So, but I did notice, and I do want to like, because you said at the beginning of this video, different perceptions. And I think that like when I was in it, I thought it was so cool that my kids had like all these different friends, but my kids have made some comments to me since we're not, and it's not like intentional, like in a bad way or negative. They're just like comments that they've said, and they're like, oh, Mom, we can have friends that don't leave, and we can have friends that don't move. And so it's like, all right, I'm so grateful for the time that we spent, and we have all of these different friends, and they're all going to come visit us, I'm sure, at some point. But also, I'm grateful now that the kids have like consistent friends that they'll be able to have come over, more than just like 2 or 3 weeks, and then they don't see them for a year or whatever. So
Right.
yeah, it's kind of, that part for me is like kind of a double-edged sword. Like I'm so grateful that we did have friends and all that stuff, but we did leave and it was always really hard. And so now I'm grateful for this phase where they have more consistent stability friends.
Okay. Well, while you're on that topic, I want to talk about this in depth if you're willing to.
Okay.
How did you know it was time for your family to get off the road? Like what thoughts and feelings started coming up? And I'm sure there was a lot of like family conversations and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
what kept coming up that made you go, it's time to get off the road and like look for a house?
So prior to last year, I truly was so happy. Like I would sit on my couch and be like, I can't believe that this is our life. Like, I can't believe that we literally have everything that we need in this tiny space and we get to go wherever we want. Like, our life is so amazing. And I truly did feel that way. And then last summer, we just started having so many problems. Our truck started breaking down. We flooded the RV, couldn't get into places. We kept having plans canceled. It was like repeatedly over. And then we were like scrambling. Where do we go? And it just kind of was it really was just like this switch that went off in my brain where I'm like, this is not fun anymore. Like, this is not enjoyable. I don't feel the peace and the joy that I once did. And I think that we need to start considering settling down. And so I brought it up to Brent, and he was kind of just like super passive about it. He was like, honestly, I don't care either way. Like, if you think that we need to settle down, we can do that. If you want to keep going, we can do that. So I didn't really say anything to the kids at first. And then, and we actually, so not at first. And then a few months later, we brought it up to the kids, and we were like, hey, what do you guys think if we got a house and stopped traveling? And we were actually shocked. All of our kids just started bawling, like they were sobbing. They're like, oh no, we don't want to. And it was just like this cry fest for them. Like they didn't want to do it. And then Molly ended up making me, because Molly has really only known this life. She was 18 months when we went full time. So she's never known any different. She ended up drawing me this picture of like the RV and like our family inside of it that said home. And I was like, okay, so they're definitely not ready for this. And so, so basically we didn't do anything. That was in fall of last year. And then we went back to Florida, spent some time there. And then actually my oldest girl and my oldest boy were like, Mom, we really don't want to travel anymore. We want to be able to do sports. We want to be able to like go to church consistently. We want to be able to like have friends that don't move. And I was like, okay, like, so those two are kind of that where I'm at. And we didn't really push it. And then finally in May, we kind of like had another family meeting, and they were more on board. The other kids were more on board, and they're like, all right, I think it'd be cool if we were able to stay in this area. We have a really good community where we're at. We have a lot of friends here that live here and don't travel. And so they were all like, if we live there, then I'll stay. And so that was when we kind of started the process of selling it. But even when we like actually sold it, and that week that we drove away, my two youngest were so sad, even though they were excited. Like they talked about it. They're like, Mom, we're really excited to get a house. They were so sad because that was their home and that was all that they knew. And I'm just like, bye, Felicia. Like, I don't even care. Like I was sad, but I was like so ready because again, this has been a year that I've wanted to move out. Like I was really ready. So I had to be patient with them and be like, I know you guys are sad. I know this is your home, but home is just where we are together. And so now they're totally fine. Like we have a house at the pool and it's on a lake, and they're like, this is sweet. But that definitely was hard for them. Molly she was the saddest. She was so sad to leave. She was like, I don't know what it's like to live in a house. All of our houses that we've had leave and travel. I'm like, aww. I know, but you're going to love this. So it was a process for sure. It was definitely a year process.
Yeah. Okay. Couple questions there. As a content creator, you had to like stay fresh and keep posting about your life.
Yes.
Even though for like the past year, your heart wasn't really in it.
Yeah.
How did you approach creating that content?
If you look at my content over the last year, you could see a shift of my reaction. And I was actually like, I was very open and honest about it in my stories and stuff, talking to people about just how like I was done, but RVing will always be like a part of us. Like Brent even said today, he was like, I want to get a motor home and go out to Utah and South Dakota next summer. And so it'll always be a big part of our life because there is that aspect, like I said earlier, of the freedom of it. Like you can go wherever you want and you still have everything that you need. And so it'll always be like a part of what we do. I think we'll always have probably an RV once we buy this new one. But yeah, it's just different now. So
even though you renovated your toy hauler and lived there it was your home for what, 4 years or so, 3 or 4 years?
3, yeah.
Was it hard for you to sell it, or were you just totally
No,
ready?
It's actually funny. We were talking about this to our friends the other night. It was harder for me to sell our travel trailer than it was our last one. And I don't know why. I think it was just because that was like the safe space that we landed. And like I talked about earlier, we were really struggling with relationships around us when we left. It was a really like traumatic time. And so I think that I got more attached to the travel trailer because it was like this safe haven for me. And so I bawled leaving that one. And I actually did cry a lot leaving this last one, but it was different. Like it was more just like, this is such a big life decision. It's like my emotions are everywhere, but I wasn't as attached to this last one as I was the first one. And honestly, I have lived in rentals and my houses. And if you have followed me at all, you know that I literally renovate and change everything all the time. So I think that also is an aspect of it. Like I don't get attached to things like that. Even like the house that we're renting now, I cannot tell you the amount of messages that people are like, wait, you're painting a rental? You're doing this to a rental? Yes, because it's my house and I want to feel happy in it. And so for me, that part of it I don't feel like I get really attached like that to it.
For me, that's lessons I've also learned on the road too. Maybe that's just your personality and you've always felt that way. But like the acceptance of change is just kind of like constant, you know, even when you're at a campground just for like a couple weeks, you know, you're like, you get in your little rhythms and here's the store I go to. And there's the old guy with the dog with the thing that we always laugh at, you know, whatever. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, the old guy's leaving, you know, our neighborhood's getting upset.
So true.
And just like, well, here we go. Gonna go find a new one. And that's been like a big lesson I've learned too. It's like, this is actually kind of like if you could take like a little micro view of like what actually happens through all of our life, it's like every week it's change and it's just constant. That's actually what like really reflective of what life is too. So
100%,
sounds like
yes.
you already live that way. You're like,
yep.
This
what it
page
is
on the wall is a week old. I think we need a new color here.
Exactly. That is definitely me.
Oh my gosh. So whenever you reflect back on you and when you were living in Washington and things were kind of unsettled and you just wanted to pack up the kids and go, you know, travel wherever. And then what has changed in you over the years? And also, like, what's stayed the same, do you think?
I definitely, like before I noticed that I thrived in chaos. And, you know, I spent all my 20s having babies back to back to back. And it was just always chaotic. And I just felt like I just needed to go, 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 go. And now as I'm in my 30s, I realized that, like, just being still and like being in the moment and enjoying the moment around you is so healing for your soul. And I feel like I need more of that right now in this season. And so, you know, but we've already talked about like, we want to go to Europe at some point and spend 3 to 4 months over there. And we want to be able to go travel and stuff. But I think like the difference is that I really like, for me, I need a home base that, again, is like a safe haven for me that has space. It's so funny. I was talking to my friend Alicia this morning. I was like, I can't tell you how amazing it is to go into your bathroom and open up your cabinets and see everything. Nothing is shoved in a drawer where you can't see it, or underneath a couch or underneath your bed. My closet, I can see all of my clothes. Like, and those are stupid things, but it does, like, it's just nice to be able to like not have that added like stress or worry and like, oh, I forgot that was there or whatever. So right now, I just think that I'm in a season of just like pause and reflection and just like healing. And I need to not be moving constantly in order for that to take place.
I dig it. I feel the same way too. I'm like, oh, just let me be out in nature for a while. Okay.
Yes.
That's all I really need right now.
Exactly.
Okay, so I met you back in, was that January when the content creator?
The end of January, yeah.
You were one of the speakers at a content creator conference, which is like, I can't believe there's an RV content creator conference. If anyone is interested, that exists.
Yes.
And I mean, when you meet, people can probably get your vibe from just following you online, but online and in person, you're just one of those people. It's like, you've just gotta, you're a force to be reckoned with. Like, I'm here and I'm going to do the thing and I'm going to do it well. And this is how it's going to be done, you know? And tell me if I'm misreading you.
No,
but
that's
I
true.
can tell, like, you're always up to something. Like,
Yes.
here's my purpose. Here's what I'm up to. And here's what we're doing, people. Let's do it.
Yep.
So I feel like you might have some things in the works. Can you give us a preview? Like, you're coming off of RV life, you're settling down, maybe in the future you want to go to Europe, but like for the next little bit here, what are you going to be up to?
It's so funny that you asked that because my friend Carly asked me the same exact question last night when they came over to our house. So before I actually moved to Spokane, I owned a furniture refinishing business, and we built furniture with my best friend. And so that honestly is my happy place. I love building furniture. I love painting furniture and doing DIY projects. And so I'm so excited that the guy that we're renting this house from is just like, do whatever you want, like in the house, like I trust you. And so honestly, like the content that you're going to be seeing on our channel is a lot of DIY things and design stuff. And that's kind of like, I actually first started Instagram 10 years ago. And it was a place for design. Like I did I posted about my business. And then I also like did the whole start to finish process of us building our house. So that's kind of always been like a big part of our life. Like that is really important to me. I love doing it. I could only do so much in the RV. And y'all that have followed me for a long time know how many times I changed the inside of my RV, each room and all that stuff. But it's going to be on a much larger scale in that. And then also just like a lot more, again, right now this season for me is just like being present in the moment. And I'm really trying to work on healing my nervous system. There's been a lot of trauma in my past. And so a lot more just like being still and like being in that realm of just healing. And so kind of talking about that, but basically that's what I plan on doing.
Gonna be up to.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be up to, which I feel like it's going to take a lot of time. Like I have a lot. I literally am not sleeping at night because I'm like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. So there's definitely a lot to come, in the next several months.
Oh, I'm excited for that. Oh, I'm not very good at that stuff myself, but I love watching other people do it. So you'll be like the Joanna Gaines for furniture DIY. I'll just plop myself down and watch you do it. And
okay.
Okay. So the slogan for this show is a podcast about unexpected riches. And I'm curious to hear, what is the unexpected richness that you found during your time in RV life?
We have like never been closer as a family. And literally just watching my kids' faces light up as we drove through small towns that are literally flyover towns. And just like really exploring this nation with them was such an amazing experience. Like I will forever be grateful for that time of like us pulling up to something that we read about in a book and actually physically seeing it and seeing their faces just be like, oh my gosh, Mom, we saw this on here. We looked at this. And then just like this togetherness that we never would have probably experienced had we been all spread out, everywhere. So I am so grateful for that. Also, it forced my husband and I to really get, in a house, you can just like go in the other room or go upstairs and ignore each other. And the first year was so hard, for us in our marriage, but I'm so grateful for it because we literally had to deal with like all of our problems and all of the things that bother us about each other and all of those things. And I don't think that we ever would have experienced that had we not gone full time. So yeah, so just this like the exploration and all of the things that we were able to see and experience firsthand was truly unforgettable. And I tell people still, I'm like, you have to do it for a year. And that's not even that long in RV time. Once you get onto it, you're like, how can I see everything? Yeah. You really can't. But even just experiencing it for a year is such an amazing, I think is such an amazing thing. I still to this day tell people that they should do that.
Totally. Me too.
Yeah.
So much. I started a podcast about it. So
yeah, yes,
awesome.
Exactly.
That's good stuff. Cool. Well, can you go ahead and tell listeners where they can connect with you online?
So we're on Instagram at Our Life We Build, TikTok, Our Life We Build, YouTube, Our Life We Build, and then actually Facebook is just my name, Brittnee Proha.
And you are a hoot on Facebook. I mean, I follow you on the other ones too, but Facebook, you post the like funniest little like meme GIF things that I
have a weird sense of humor. So
it's so funny. And I like send them to so many people I know on Facebook. So that's good
awesome.
Job.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being part of the show today. Even though you had to record from your car, you're such a trooper. And I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And I usually say I'll see you on the road, but I guess this time I'll say I'll see you in Tampa.
That's fine too. I'll be here.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Brittnee. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the RV Queens podcast. If you would like to be on a guest on the show, click on the link in the show notes to the guest application. And if you would also please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and like the video, that would help us out a lot. Thanks a lot, and I will see you on the road.
Oh, I'm excited for that.